Not that I'd listen anyway. But you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know this man. I don't know this man. He doesn't know my daughter. I have a teenage daughter. God forbid that there was anything that would come up in a situation that I would have to make this decision. And who the hell is he to be in a position to, and that's why he's being celebrated by the far right, is because of this one decision. And is it really that big of a deal here in Alaska? I mean, we actually decriminalized abortion before Roe v. Wade because it seemed a little invasive and a little like, right stepping to tell a woman what, to become the uterus police. I mean, we're the last frontier. That seems to be the other last frontier.
We put a privacy clause in our Constitution, one of the earlier ones. And it's not just the parental consent bill. I mean, we have an initiative now that might outlaw any abortion at all. I mean, at any stage. It depends on what they meant by a very poorly worded initiative. But yeah, it's not just those sort of more mainstream choice issues. It's the full thing. And looks like...
That's not even a slippery slope.
No, it's just a cliff,
That's just like outlaw it altogether.
Right. A lot of disagreement about what, in fact, it does mean. But it seems to mean that.
Well, haven't we outlawed incest or rape?
Yeah, we got rid of those.
Yeah, how's that working?
They've stopped.
Totally, right?
Pilgrim.
Yeah, it's the Papa Pilgrim clause. And for those who don't remember Papa Pilgrim, he was extra pilgrimy with his kids and lived out in a reservation and
lived in a national park,
in
right?
a national park.
Yeah, sure did.
Sort of coming full circle.
It was like the Alaska Deliverance. It was just, and it's not, I mean, truthfully, it's not funny. This man had basically, quartered his family away in the wilderness and was raping his children who had children, I understand. There were pregnancies or whatever and result from that. There's no humor in that. These are real situations, and yet they constantly in the state, it's being brought up.
There is a humorous footnote, though, to Papa Pilgrim. If
from LA so we could marry our cousins.
Well, yeah, what he said. But what Papa Pilgrim became a hero to the Innholders Association. And so all these kind of right-wing land rights groups in the lower 48 were featuring his battle with BLM, was it? And
right, that he was just trying to be a hero.
There was the hero Papa Pilgrim popping up on the Google search right next to his conviction for incest. So there you go.
Right, there's your hero.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's sad in a state that usually leads the nation in those crimes, in rape and incest and in domestic violence. And back to what we were talking about, sort of this...
You're not proud of that?
Reality gap or fact gap. We should be able to address those issues rather than just the hot button of taking away that right to choose. I mean, there's a lot of places we should be able to work together, but they're not as interesting, or frankly, they're not as divisive, right? Those things you can come together on and agree. When Sean Parnell said, everyone agrees we don't want something to the effect of, we don't want a species to be extinct, but we're going to take up pitchforks and fight the federal government.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of rhetorical area where you say, well, you guys should be able to say, then let's have a rational conversation about how we proceed with the port and our sewage needs in this area, in this high population for us area, and still preserve a species that we all seem to agree shouldn't leave the earth. But that's no fun, right? The middle ground where we just figure it out isn't as fun as you're a fascist and you're a communist. And repeat when necessary.
I thought I was, rinse.
No,
repeat.
I'm talking to both sides, yeah.
Right, no.
I'm not saying you're both, you might be.
It's difficult. No, but I think you're right, and sadly, what falls through the cracks on that
everything.
is a freaking solution.
That's right.
I mean,
it's actually getting something done.
Actually having something happen. The same people that are against, parental consent, or for women's rights, basically, no matter how old they are also for abstinence only. You can't get it both ways. The solution should be, I don't know a single liberal, progressive, tree-hugging hippie, non-shaven, whatever, pot-smoking hippie from Homer
You don't know any of them?
that would
Oh, that would. I thought you knew a lot of them. Yeah, I thought you knew all of them, actually.
that would say, oh my gosh,
Okay,
I
wait.
had this abortion. It was fabulous. You've got to do it. Nobody is pro-abortion. Nobody is like,
Right.
oh my God, I need a cigarette. Are they joking? So instead it's like, you just want to kill babies, and you're the uterus police, and in the meantime, children are not being educated. Children, young people.
I had a
people
bill in
of
the
all
legislature
ages.
to force insurance companies to pay for contraceptive. At that time, in the late 90s, they'd pay for anything that went wrong with the penis, right? But the whole
Right,
women's thing was
ED.
just, yeah. So they weren't covering contraception. And I was able to say, look, if you're serious about, the vast majority of abortions come from unwanted pregnancies. The vast majority of unwanted pregnancies come from not using right contraceptives, right? So if you want to prevent the number of abortions, reduce the number of abortions, this is a great way to do it. We actually got a fair amount of conservative support, but
That was a solution.
right, and it died over a whole bunch of things. But I remember the House
It was
debate.
aborted early in the
It was
term.
aborted late, actually.
A
Should have been illegal.
late-term abortion
Yeah.
to your bill
Yeah.
to prevent abortions. The irony is not lost on me.
Shannyn, the bumper sticker that I have on that whole issue is that life is sacred in the womb. After that, the kid's on its own. And it's true. We basically don't have a pro-life group in terms of the abortion issue. We have a fetus cult. The fetus is sacred, but when the kid is born, we don't fully fund natal care, the WIC program for the mother so there can be proper nutrition, early childhood education, daycare assistance that we used to have in the state, but we don't anymore. I wonder what Sean Parnell is going to do about that, if he's pro-family.
Denali Kid Care, the
Denali
health care
Kid Care.
for
Right. Love-
low-income.
And
And that was pregnant women and low-income kids.
and if
Right.
the kid,
Love the fetus, hate the child.
and if the kid happens to be born in difficult circumstances, winds up committing a crime, by God, we're going to throw the book at him and try him as an adult. So then the kid goes into jail, becomes an adult, learns a bunch of bad things, comes out, commits another series of crimes. Well, 3 strikes and you're out. And now we have the healthcare debate in which we have the so-called pro-life people doing everything they can to staunch providing healthcare to families. I mean, my God,
Right,
what
there's-
is pro-life?
Well, there's churches coming out right now against the health care reform. And I don't remember what the deductible was on leprosy being healed, or what was the copay on raising Lazarus from the dead, making the blind to see. I don't remember any of these questions. But all the really cool tricks in the Bible were really about, well, they were about healing. Or, I mean, who could take, 5 loaves and 2 fish and feed 5,000 and not call that socialism? I mean, it wasn't like Jesus was like, oh, really? You're hungry? Well, next time you'll pack your own damn lunch, and there's the one guy with a lunch. It didn't happen. So I find it so backwards and really manipulated, because I think there are so many good-hearted people who, are trying to understand this, but to go for those solutions and take it out of that fringe like you were trying to do, it hasn't been happening. And I know you work with that too, in this sort of like hippie, greenie, only can eat tofu.
You don't have long enough
Yeah, I'm
hair
sort
to
of
be a
hippie,
hippie.
Shannyn.
Yeah.
No, but you with what you do with Cook and Link Keeper, you really have to. You're sort of aligned with that, but at the same time, you're like, well, why is this a partisan issue when you're trying to keep Chewit Nicole from going across a salmon stream? I mean, what's partisan about salmon? They turn red after they're silver. I mean, I don't know if that means.
I come back to what Eric said before. Facts increasingly don't matter. I mean, if the anti-abortion crowd were really concerned about giving a voice to the voiceless, they'd talk about climate change, they'd talk about salmon habitat and water quality, the things that are going to endure populations for generations to come. But that doesn't happen. And so, we've dug into this reptilian brain, and we find this divisiveness, and it's so frustrating, because there's people that want to talk and even argue facts and science, and that's been shunted off. You see it in the beluga, you see it in the Pebble Mine debate, you see it in the Chewit Nicole debate.
Polar bears.
Polar bears, yeah.
It's a Christian value too. I mean, Noah was saving them all, not like, forget the beluga, right? I assume the beluga could swim, but forget the giraffe, right?
Right.
On healing, on
Right,
giraffe's
that
a pain in the ass. We
Noah
gotta have a
was the
tooth-style-
first animal
Yeah,
conservationist.
yeah.
No, it was Old Testament.